Hey everybody, today I wanted to talk to you about opening statements. Opening statements are an important part of the trial because they really set the stage for everything else that happens in the trial. A lot of times people feel like opening statements can be the difference in the trial. You've already picked the jury's been waiting to hear what the facts of the case are, and then you deliver them the facts and the story of your point of view during opening statement. If you've been watching the George Floyd trial recently, you may have seen opening statements, and there were a couple mishaps that I would say from a legal argumentation point, and I wanted to go over some of those with you today so that you can avoid the same pitfalls in your own opening statements. So one, both sides use what I would call lawyer words. Lawyer words are like recalcitrant is a good one. It means they're kind of a jerk. Just these big fancy words that lawyers like to use. The prosecution used this phrase that the people on the street that day who were the witnesses, the prosecutor was trying to say that there were people from all sorts of walks of life, from all sorts of economic backgrounds and educational backgrounds, people who were prior law enforcement, things like that. It could have just said that. Instead, he said this. There was a veritable bouquet of humanity out there. Nobody talks like that. When you start using those words, a veritable bouquet, I mean, I've heard veritable cornucopia of things. That's sort of a phrase I've repeatedly heard through my life, but most people haven't. Most people are not using that word. If you go to lunch with somebody and you're talking about what happened in your day, you don't say, oh, there was a veritable bouquet of humanity as we walked into the restaurant today. You would say, like, man, did you see all those people outside? There was a lot of people out there. Or anything you can say other than those crazy lawyer words. Another one that the defense used was totality of the circumstances. They wanted you to look at the totality of the circumstances. That's a specific legal term that was made to talk about search issues in cases. Do you look at the totality of the circumstances, things like that. But it's not a word that people really use. It's not a phrase that people use, and it doesn't really mean a whole lot. If you're trying to say totality of the circumstances to a jury, you just say, look at everything. Or you say, look at the big picture. When you see all the evidence, you're going to see that we're right, the other side's wrong, whatever. I will give the defense credit a little bit. They used a theme. They used repeated words for a theme that was reasonableness and common sense. But that's a really basic theme. There had to be some other themes out there. One thing I have to knock the defense for as well is they spent probably 2 or 3 minutes explaining to the jury what a bait stamp was. Now, if you don't know what a bait stamp is, it's this stamp that like you hit with documents with, and it stamps them with a sequential number. And so the point that the defense was trying to make was that the prosecution had given them over 50,000 pages of documents, and yet they were going to play an 8-minute video and say, well, that was the whole case, was this 8-minute video, when there's mountains of other evidence for the jury to consider, right? The point they're trying to make is there's a whole lot more evidence in that video. Don't make up your mind from the video, okay? So now take that however you want, whatever side you come down on. That's not good strategy to waste your time explaining what a bait stamp is in your opening statement. Who would have thought that the bait stamp would have been a key feature of the defense opening statement? I wouldn't have. So if you're writing that down, you've got that idea, you're like, oh yeah, man, that bait stamp, we're on number 50,000. Well, they won't know what a bait stamp is, so I'll explain it to them in opening statement. No. Don't explain anything that they don't really understand in opening statement. What you're trying to do in opening statement is get them to look at the case from your point of view. Try to pick somebody in the case and tell the story of your case from their point of view. Don't be talking about bait stamps. Don't be talking about veritable bouquets of humanity. Just keep it simple and straightforward language.